Welcome to the Lovecars On The Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff Needell, and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to another episode of Lovecars On The Grid, your global motorsport roundup. This is episode 25. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to kick off with hot off the press, hot news about Valtteri Bottas, probably what we all have known for some time. But where's he going, Tiff?
Alfa Romeo, yes, we all knew it would happen, and he's gone there now today. Then they haven't announced Mercedes. Why don't they sort of do the obvious thing and announce George? I suppose they want all the headlines for Alfa today, and then they'll wait for another day so they can get the headlines for Mercedes. No, but the interesting thing is who's going to join him, because most people think Giovinazzi, because he's Italian, but there's this Schumacher lurking in the background, and if Ferrari wants to see Schumacher given a proper test. Then I think there's more people think it might be Schumacher alongside and poor old Giovinazzi. He's had about 3 or 4 years to try and prove himself in a difficult Alfa. Qualified 7th. I think he probably maybe knew it was coming because he qualified his best qualifying, I think, in Holland. But yeah, it's great. Valtteri's going. That's good for him because he's now going to be a team leader, and he can get on with his life with a nice paycheck and be a Grand Prix driver for several more years. And hopefully we'll see George in there. But
we will see George there. Of course we will. And I think it's a good move all round. And how is it going to be next year with George and Lewis? And we can only salivate over that being British.
Now it's the race for Williams, of course, because if that's happened, and there's Red Bull trying to get Alexander Albon in there, which I think would be fantastic because I think he so deserves at least a second year in Grand Prix racing. I think every driver probably needs 2 years to prove whether they're good enough or not. But then there's all this, Mercedes are blocking it stories from Red Bull. Of course, Mercedes got their own Nick de Vries, who won the Formula E Championship, who's been a Mercedes boy for years and was a talented, Formula 2 winner. So de Vries is a candidate, and then standing in the background there's Jack Aitken, Britain's Aitken. He might be at Williams. So plenty more fun and games in who sits where next year in Formula 1.
Well, let's talk about Formula One a little bit more in depth, which is the kind of highlight of this show, really, and the fact that it was the Dutch Grand Prix returned after what last time it was in Holland was in 1985, I think. So and home
something like.
Home territory of Max Verstappen, who kind of dominated all weekend. And I was so pleased for the Dutch fans. There's nothing better. Your home Grand Prix, your home fans, and your home boy comes through the goods.
The build-up press was stolen by Kimi retiring, so that was a steal. Kimi got the press first for retiring, which it's time, Kimi. We love you. We'd love you to stay forever, but the time had to come. But then, of course,
let me stop you there. It amazes me with Kimi the amount of love he gets. He comes. I know he's the Iceman. It's all a bit of a facade, but he comes across me as such an arrogant bloke. He's so miserable. I like someone that's got a bit of personality and wears a heart on their sleeve.
That's why you don't like me. Okay, now I see why I don't like me so much. You don't like my miserable half.
It's time for Kimi to go. What an innings! What a great career he's had.
And then, of course, he got COVID. So the first race of his retirement period, he got COVID. He's got Kubica back in again. But I think everyone's delighted to see Kubica have another. Kubica or Kubica? I'm never quite sure. So Robert was back. But yeah, of course, it was Max's weekend. And this amazing bull ring of a circuit. Spectacular, watching one car. But we all feared, as I said on this podcast last week, it was going to be a procession. And of course, it was. But qualifying was really exciting, because Lewis was on it. The banking was there. Gasly qualified 4th. Ferrari were okay. Giovinazzi, as I said, had 7th, which is quite surprising. Both Williams crashing. George trying to get into the top 10. He was 11th, trying to get into the top 10. He's regular now. Saturday brilliance. This time he outpaced himself. And, of course, Latifi crashed as well. Lando off the pace. He had that awful crash in Belgium and doesn't seem to have really got his Gio back. Mojo Gio. I'm thinking of Giovinazzi because he only qualified he qualified 11th or 12th, I think. No, his 13th was he off the pace. Ricciardo only 10th because the Alpines are getting stronger. Bad weekend for McLaren though. Perez again stressed up there. He fell off in Belgium, on that warming up lap, and then he didn't even make it out of Q1. I think he got out of the pits last and complained all the backing up, which happens at these short circuits, same as Monaco. he didn't get to start, what would have been his last chance to get out. So, the Hasses headlining again. They argue between each other for who's the worst at the back of the field. And this time, Nikita Mazepin, it was his turn, apparently, to be the first out of the garage for the final qualifying run. But somehow Schumacher got ahead of him. So Mazepin's coming alongside and tried to barge wheels. And then, of course, Vettel's arriving on a fast lap and finds two Hasses side by side. They went on to hit each other in the race as well, the Hasses.
It's so bizarre. I can't. It's just the most bizarre thing ever when teams are racing each other. I know the red mist when your helmet's on and the flag and the lights go out, but that's ridiculous.
But the race itself was the procession, a bit of fun. I mean, it's spectacular, that banking, but you can't overtake down the inside of the tighter turn 3 bank. You just can't quite get the job done. And at the end, Max wins by, 20 seconds ahead of Lewis.
Yeah, but that was
50 seconds ahead of Bottas.
A little bit distorted because Lewis did come in and get
they
some
stopped for the fastest laps.
Yeah. But still,
everybody else lapped.
Yeah,
everybody else lapped.
Incredible.
But then, to be fair,
the whole field.
But a lot of the youngsters, when I say, God, that was a boring race, they'll point out that in the 60s, 50s, 70s, you'd often have, wins by a minute and 2 minutes, So stop complaining about modern Grand Prix racing, Tiff. It was, don't look through rose-tinted glasses. There's a huge difference in the old days when we had these races where someone won by a minute. Is the reliability was so awful. And so, if this had been 40 years ago, we'd all be listening to Verstappen. Is that a bit of a misfire I've heard? Is the gearbox playing up? Is the exhaust pipe about to fall apart? Will the clutch last? So 50 years ago, there was always this tension, even to the last lap, in case there was a mechanical problem, because there's so many retirements. But almost this reliability now is one of Formula One's biggest problems, because, you don't have that anymore, I remember when Lewis blew an engine, big flames, about 3 years ago when he lost the title. Was that when he lost the title to Rosberg that year, I think? Everyone was so shocked. An engine had blown up in the middle of a race.
But I remember the days of Mansell and Senna, the reliability was
still, it wasn't perfect,
It wasn't by a long way.
Of course, also, 50, 60 years ago, one car going through a corner, I would still maintain, was more exciting. You can see the whole drive, you can see his hands sliding, you see the opposite lock. So that's my other way of ticking a box as to how exciting a Formula is. If one car on its own doesn't excite you, then, the Formula needs moving. And if the Formula's changing next year, we'll wait and see. But great, AlphaTauri, Gasly fourth, really good run. Ferrari's middle of the top 10. Who else do we have running well? The Alpines, I said, they filled up the sort of middle of the top 10. Sergio Perez off his qualifying, and then he had a gearbox change, started the back. He had good fun, so he got up to 8th in the end. But of course, when you got the best car by far, which his teammate was proving out front. I mean, all weekend he was barely within a second of Max.
Incredible.
So I mean, Sergio's just lucky. There's no more Red Bull drivers queued up to kick him out next year. He's got the deal for another year.
Incredible. Did you see the part? So there's a part in it where Bottas was given some team orders to hold Perez up. And so he did it. He didn't do it very gracefully, did he? He sort of.
I didn't see that bit.
And sort of barged into him. No, what am I talking about? It wasn't. It was Ricciardo. I'm sorry. Was
okay.
So had a little bit of a argy-bargy. Also,
because Lando got by Ricciardo at the end, finished there for 9th and 10th.
Also, the Vettel spin on the banking circuit, that was one of the highlights. There weren't very many highlights, really. It was a bit of a...
I was at Salon Privé all day, so I didn't see it live. I was at Salon Privé. I was watching someone else's monitor for a while, but so I times 30'd it last night. So I didn't stop very often to watch.
Let me tell you,
the wheel bagging, the Lando Perez wheel bagging, that was good. When Perez went around the outside with better tyres, better grip, and Lando didn't give in easily.
Yeah, the highlight for me was the ending when all the razzmatazz,
it was wonderful.
All the orange flares going off and the fireworks. That was so good. Max must have felt like he's on cloud nine. Must have been his best ever win. So and also
shame for Tsunoda. Just thinking of other disappointments. He's the rising star of Yukio. It seems to have faded badly, and he didn't qualify very well. He went out with an engine problem. So Yuki's having a bit of a hard time at the moment. So you say what else?
No, and I was just going to say, and also, of course, there was the W Series, which was there supporting, and F3. So I don't know whether...
we'll come to those, yeah. Okay. I was going to say George, of course, went out with the gearbox. Max has now got a 3-point lead. So it's going to be an exciting series all the way down the line. There's Formula 3, of course, the support events.
Yeah, which it was pretty exciting. It was
it looked good because they're all big pack around that. But the opening laps through that turn 3 banking, they were all high and low, and it looked like NASCAR, and it was spectacular. But then once the race settled, the first sprint race reverse grid was run by Charles Leclerc, who qualified 10th, therefore started 3rd. Victor Martins, he came out quite well from 5th on the second sprint race to win that one. But it was Norway's Dennis Hauger.
Charles Leclerc was in the F3, was he, Tiff?
I've got the wrong Leclerc.
He's gone.
What's his name? What's his name now?
His brother.
I forgot. Yes, his brother, Leclerc.
Mr. Leclerc. Monsieur Leclerc.
Is it Michael Leclerc? Yeah, anyway, the other Leclerc. But Norway's Dennis Hauger was on pole for the main race, won that from start to finish. And they go for one more round, but one more triple header for Formula 3s. And he's now 31 points in the air. So a Norwegian, Dennis Hauger, looks very much favourite for the title. The Brits in a very good weekend. Ollie Caldwell's best was a 6th. Johnny Egg was 15th and Jonathan Hogarth 20th. So again, no joy for the Brits in F3, but British domination in the W Series.
They're doing well, aren't they? The ladies are doing incredibly well.
But all 6 of our British drivers were in the top 10 at the finish. I mean, it's just a fantastic achievement. Of course, the first 2 out front were Alice Powell beating Jamie Chadwick, and they're now equal on points with 2 races to go in Mexico and the United States Grand Prix. But
Texas.
Where's it all going? This is what, because I mean, in I think it's Mexico's the second one. So either Alice Powell or Jamie Chadwick will be given $500,000 for winning a championship that they were paid for everything. If Jamie wins it again, she'll have earned $1 million. And I don't know where. There's obviously massive financial investment. They must have spent £100 million, I would say, with these lucky young girls, women, having this fantastic race series. And it's a brilliant shop window for them. But of course, Jamie Chadwick went and did a Formula 3 series at the end of the last season, and got blew away by the young men in the same team with Prema. So I can't see any of the current girls being a Grand Prix driver at all. So I think what it boils down to with the W Series, that the investors are saying, well, it's opening the eyes to young girls. And I agree. Yeah. If we can find Maxine Verstappen karting in Holland, and I think the biggest test will be if we see that there are more girls buying karting licenses this winter, that would almost prove to me that the W Series is working, because it's getting more girls to, instead of going to the pony club, to go to the kart track. But where do they get their money back? The W Series itself.
Sponsors, I guess. They must.
It's fantastic they're doing it, because I think it is, encouraging more and more young girls to have a crack at four-wheel racing. But it's wonderful for the girls in it. I mean, there must be so many, the young lads, the 18, 17-year-old.
So despondent. People that
she's
so
winning.
Good.
She's getting $500,000 for winning a series that she's.
And I'm desperate. Quicker, yeah, exactly. But in this world now, it's a really funny. It's an odd world, because you're allowed to have a series like that, and you're allowed to this is a women's only series, but you do it the other way around, and it's not. It's kind of frowned upon. But of course, women are welcome in any motorsport.
Well, every male championship can have women in it. I mean, Tatiana Calderon's in the best woman, but she's struggling a bit in the Super Formula in Japan. Although, to be fair, she hasn't done all the races. But it is fun. I mean, the great thing about Alice Powell or Jamie Chadwick, maybe they get professional drivers to race at Le Mans and that sort of LMP2, LMP3. So it will open up opportunities for the girls doing it now. But none of them are going to, leap into Formula One. I very much doubt.
Probably not from this generation, but it will inspire a whole new generation.
Well, that's what they hope for. But as I said, where do they get their money back when they've spent £100 million so far? Why do they think it was necessary to give $500,000? You could give them £1,000 first prize, and the women would have been delighted.
Here's a free series,
free season race.
Free season racing. Go all over the world. We're off to Texas, Circuit Americas next week, in 2 weeks' time, and but. I think if it inspires a generation, then great. But where is the money coming from? Sponsorship, bit of TV rights, but But very good. And our own Vicky Piria, she started 11th and finished 11th. Very technical circuit, she said, very difficult to overtake, as we all know.
Yeah, she felt it was on the pace. She was more on the pace, but couldn't quite get by.
Yeah.
But of course, two women that have moved on to a more professional series, Sophia Flörsch and Esme Hawkey. They were out in DTM, which is a really exciting GT3 series. Plenty of sponsorship in there. They're at the Red Bull Ring. But both races were won by the Red Bull protege Liam Lawson in his Ferrari. And Albon, his teammate, had a fourth and then a punctured finish. But there's Philip Ellis that nobody's really heard of in Britain. Philip Ellis, good for you. Everyone tweet for Philip. He, in his Mercy, he had a third and a fourth. And he's now fifth over on the points.
Where's Philip from? So tell me a bit about Philip Ellis. Tell us a bit about Philip Ellis.
I don't know enough. He's put me on the spot now. Go Google Philip Ellis. He won the British GT Championship, but he's just a really hard grafting bloke. He's gone out and got these drives. But there are the two women that have gone there. Esme had 2/16ths, and Sophia Flörsch finished one behind her in the first race and one ahead of her in the second race. So it was 1-1 for the women in DTM. But there's still they are towards the back of the field still. But maybe they'll move up. It's hard to say where this is all going, but it is great, the W Series. It just looks good, and it's good to see the women having a crack.
Look, the more women in motorsport, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But likewise, I think you and I, we're old school. It should be meritocracy. So the best drivers should have the best opportunities. So, and they should be in Formula One or NASCAR or Le Mans. So I just feel for these people. I know what it's like now, after doing a very amateur sort of season. But I know what it's like, and it must be so disheartening for these incredibly good guys that don't get drives. In
fact, I had an email when we were at Brands Hatch, we were the Caterham. It was a fantastic Formula Ford race, his national Formula Ford race. And I'm going to forget his name now, which is really annoying him. But I had an email from him. But he did this round the outside move at Paddock Bend, and he won 2 races. But I told the start line marshal, because we were up to go film, tell him Tiff thinks that was amazing. So he's contacted me, saying, "Can I help?" Which I can't really, apart from any introductions. But he's got no money now. Where to go, and there are so many like that. He's obviously a very talented young driver. That he must be looking at that W Series and saying, "Oh, can't there be a teenage boy?" But it needs someone to pay for it. It always needs someone to pay for it somewhere.
It's expensive business. But I tell you a cheap way to do it. We'll come on to that at the end. We'll leave that for the end. But I did a bit of cheap motor racing that I wasn't planning on doing over the weekend. But we'll come on to that in a moment. Let's
bikes. Magny Cours. 3 wins for this Turkish top track Razgatlioglu.
It seems to be good. It seems to be a good track for bikes, Tiff. Mangi Cours.
Yeah, it is. They love it. I think everybody loves Magny. I never raced there, but all the drivers I know say it's great. But this battle with Jonathan Rea, the British formerly dominant Brits. He's now taken the points lead, but he actually got docked the middle race, which they call the Super Pole race, because he had track limits. They've got amazing track limits in bikes. You just go touch the green with your responder, and you're pinged. So he had to give one of his 3 wins to Jonathan Rea. So that championship was going to go to the very end. British Superbikes entertained at sunny Snetterton, a glorious day out if you're a bike lover. Taryn McKenzie getting 2 wins, while his teammate Jason Halloran and the other Yamaha runner won the other one. So great bikes, always entertaining to watch. I have to come to NASCAR. I know, maybe not many people. I'm sure you're growing.
I was asleep.
We had one of the most amazing last 5 or 10 laps of NASCAR. So you're talking about this 170, 180 mile an hour oval. And of course, Kyle Larson, you might know him by now in the number 5 Chevrolet. Dominated. It was the quickest car all day, and he just every time it was a restarted from pole, pulled away a 3 or 4 second lead. But the whole problem in NASCAR is you have to pit in the green flag, and you never know when a yellow flag's coming. And right towards the last 40 laps, he got caught out with a yellow. He'd pitted, 4 other cars hadn't, which meant he then had to restart. I think it was 4th for the sort of final restart. So he muscled his way back up to 2nd. He follows Denny Hamlin, who'd been closest to him of the rest of the pack in a Toyota, hunting him down. They get close, but they take error like Formula One. But Larson's got this habit that he's now renowned for. I mean, he goes around the walls at 170, 180 miles an hour, like 1 inch from the wall, 1 inch.
Crazy.
And he goes into the turn, having slowed enough, he thinks. And he just, because that's the quicker way, that wider line. But Hamlin knew this, so Hamlin was blocking the top line. So every time he got close, the aero. Anyway, the final lap, he's like 4 car lengths in the lead, Hamlin. Now, Hamlin obviously backed off a bit more than normal, maybe at the last turn. Well, last turn, 3 and 4 is, the last single turn. So Larson just hardly braked, let it hit the wall deliberately, hit the wall. So he's now sliding round the wall, using the wall, going about 5 miles an hour faster than Hamlin, hits the back of Hamlin, gives him a shove forwards. He then hits the wall again, and there's smoke coming off his fenders on his front tyre. He was just hoping and praying that, Hamlin would see him coming, maybe just give him that high line. But it was the most astounding, finish. And, last of the interviews afterwards, this huge smile on his face. There's a smouldering wreckage because he had 2 punctures on the right-hand side. I mean, I know there's long, boring periods within it. But it's, we're now going into this last 16, getting knocked down to the last 12. 4 of the top 16 of these playoffs had huge shunts and retired. So Mike McDowell, Kyle Busch, he wasn't happy. He never is. William Byron and Chase Elliott, they're all now at the bottom, and the 4 get knocked out after the 2 more races. So, of course, a lot of tension in the NASCAR world at the moment. But talking of heroes, I mean, Kyle Larson is good. But someone I know got into his Caterham, drove to Croft on Saturday night, having not going to be able to do the race, cancelled doing it. And now things changed, the date changed. And Paul, I mean, that's just magnificent. You drove to Croft. You've never driven around Croft at all. You had, 20-minute qualifying in the morning when you qualified 10th, and then got to 7th in the race. And, that's not an easy track to learn. I used to have a rule of thumb. I could learn a track in 12 laps and I'd be nearly on the pace. Because, my day of racing, we hadn't had any testing or, practice at all. I was jumping into different cars. You only got 9 laps of Croft, which is a very tricky technical circuit. And then you drove home on the Sunday night. That's what Caterham Academy maybe should be like. I think maybe there's too much of these, so many track days available now for you lot to go and rent, go out and have a day's holiday, take time off work and to test. So I thought it was brilliant. That's what it should be like.
It really should be.
But did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy it?
It was probably my favourite race of the season so far.
Oh, really?
It was amazing. So actually, I was out for I couldn't go because of Ella's birthday. I was out for dinner with her Saturday. So we went up early Sunday morning. So 5-hour drive up there, but because I had to stop twice for fuel. Fuel straight up there. Got up there nice and early. Did my first ever track walk, which was really good fun. The weather was beautiful.
Did you?
Yeah, I did a track walk.
Did you go online? Did you go online to look at other people's laps?
No, I didn't have time. I didn't have any time. I didn't have anything. So I was completely blind to it. No sim, no practice, nothing. And the guys have been up there all week practicing, and they were on it. And all my colleagues are saying, all of my friends are saying, "Don't come. It's so technical. There's these red flags every session. There's people in the gravel all over the place. It's awful track." And then I spoke to you on Saturday evening and said, "What do you think?" You said, "Do it. Absolutely do it." And it was the best thing I've ever done. Because normally Caterham take my car for me to the circuit. They look after everything. It's just easy. But I did it, I think, how it should be done. As you just said, Tiff. Jump in your car, drive up there. I actually took my girlfriend with me as well, who, fair play to her. She travelled the whole way with me. Did 15 minutes qualifying, then waited around for a few hours, 20 minutes on the race. And it was absolutely brilliant. And if it wasn't for... So you know Croft very well, Tiff. All the fast stuff, great. From the hairpin onwards, all the fast stuff, great. But then you've got these 2 corners called Sunny In and Sunny Out.
Tricky.
Just didn't have enough time to get that right. And I was so slow around there. And that made all the difference because I couldn't pull any gap. So that when I got into 6th place, the guy kept getting me back there every single time. And he kept overtaking me there because I had no speed there. But hindsight's easy, but it was the best race I've ever done. And I'm so proud and pleased to get a 7th place. I didn't think I'd ever be 7th place. So thank you for your support and ongoing there. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gone. As simple as that.
Real racing. We all love it. So anyway, it was a pretty hectic, not many races this weekend. We already covered Zandvoort, DTM and the Superbikes and Caterhams. But loads coming up this weekend. Wherever you are, there's going to be too much motorsport. We've got the Monza Grand Prix, Formula One. That's always a good spectacle. Formula 2's the support there. IndyCars are back after a small break. They got 3 weekends on the trot now to finish off their championship, which is very tight at the top. So IndyCars are going to be good at Portland. World Rally Championship is back in Greece. The Acropolis, the famous, not quite as tough as it used to be, the Acropolis. MotoGPs are back around Aragon, and they'll all respect. I mean, Aragon.
Spania.
Oh, well, that last year, through the big flat-out right-hander, in the dip, over the crest, down to the Tour. So they're going to be back to their the Moto3s will be 10 abreast. Back at home, we've got to go and watch anything. The British GTs at Alton Park, British Superbikes at Silverstone, and that's exciting stuff. Oh, and of course, there's some NASCAR on a Sunday night.
So next week's going to be
all to watch.
Next week's going to be exciting as well. And in the Caterham, let me just say as well that Freddie Chiddick's in the Academy won again. So it is tight at the top. Absolutely, it is so tight. You had the same three guys up there: Fred, Mark Jones second, who's been on every single podium in every single race, which is brilliant, and Jeff Newman, the pre-season favourite. Jeff's under a bit of pressure at the moment. He's not enjoying it as much as young Freddie and Mark at the moment. And in the white group, Charlie Lower, our mate Charlie Lower. So good for Charlie. And
is Charlie leading? Is Charlie leading the
Charlie probably
white
leading
group?
The white group now. We all get two drop rounds, so it's a bit we don't know. But and a brilliant second place for Giles Perry. I think he's one of those guys that just puts so much effort in. And I think a lot of people were very pleased that he managed to get a second place podium. So it was a bit, cool. The white group was a little bit of carnage. I think Caterham were quite happy with the repair bills from the white group this weekend because it was a bit messy. But the green group, I hasten to add, nice and smooth. So it was all very good. It was all good fun between white.
It all ends at Snetterton then, just a double header at Snetterton. When's that? How long have we got to go?
The 10th of October, double header, and I'm telling you, I'm going to get a podium. Well, by hook or by crook, I've got to get a podium. I think you know, Formula One just introduced the most overtakes. I'm definitely leading that. Best start, most overtakes.
Check my diary. I'm not sure I can stand the pressure. What did you say? The 10th of October? Oh no, I'm very busy.
Washing your hair that day.
Oh no, I can't go. No,
washing your hair on that day. On that note, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Yeah. Enjoy. Comments. There's some more comments. Cheers.